All right, Libby Dean live for us there at the White House. Libby, thank you. Well, President Trump's choice to be Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, facing pointed questions at her confirmation hearing today. The former head of World Wrestling Entertainment, McMahon ran the Small Business Administration during the first Trump administration, and if confirmed, she would oversee a department that President Trump wants to abolish, at one time calling it a hotbed of, quote, radicals, zealots, and Marxists. The president was asked about the Education Department's future just a few days ago. This is what he said.
So if you look at the list, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, believe it or not, China's doing very well on that list, a list of well-educated, where they run their school system well. You have a lot of countries, not surprising names. I think that if you moved our schools into some of these states that are really well-run states, they would be as good as Denmark and Norway and Sweden and some of the other states.
Well, efforts to dismantle the department have been met with protests, not just in Washington, but actually all across the country. So let's bring in NewsNation's Joe Khalil live for us there on Capitol Hill. Joe, McMahon's hearing really comes as recent hires at the department are already being laid off.
Yeah, and there were certainly some questions about that already. It's been a little more than 2 hours now that Donald Trump's nominee for Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon, taking questions inside of there. She got questions focused on that, focused on education policy. But really the elephant in the room was something that both McMahon and President Trump have acknowledged, which is that the ultimate goal of this administration is to phase out and eventually end the Department of Education altogether. So not surprisingly, she got several questions along those lines. Take a listen to just one of those exchanges. This is actually from Republican chairman of this committee, Senator Bill Cassidy.
Yes or no, do you agree that since the department was created by Congress, it would need an act of Congress to actually close the Department of Education?
And certainly President Trump understands that we'll be working with Congress. We'd like to do this right. We'd like to make sure that we are presenting a plan that I think our senators could get on board with and our Congress could get on board with that would have a better functioning Department of Education, but certainly does require congressional action.
All right, so take a look here. These are some of the things that the Department of Education generally handles now. She did say, though, that she would not make any moves to end or to downsize the department without the approval of Congress, without Congress being involved in that process. Again, that was a question specifically that she had gotten several times as well. We're already seeing that President Trump and his Republican Senate his senators here are moving very quickly to confirm several of his nominees. That continues today. So we have been told that for Linda McMahon as well, that process is going to be the same, where you may see movement on her as soon as they can possibly do it, potentially next week, even as a confirmation vote.
Yeah, just to keep our viewers in the loop here, Joe is standing outside of that hearing room. So obviously you're trying to keep track of the comings and goings there. Joe, did Linda McMahon address at any point Elon Musk and DOE and the concerns that we're hearing from Democrats about some of these dramatic federal cuts?
Yeah, and this is the theme that continues to appear in several hearings, no matter what the topic, that DOE coming in, Democrats having concerns about whether money that Congress has appropriated is going to ultimately end up in the places and for the programs where they have appropriated it. So there were several questions in there as well about that. Directly, Senator Patty Murray asking Linda McMahon whether, if she is confirmed, money that Congress appropriates is directed from President Trump or from Elon Musk to go somewhere else, would she follow those orders? She was pretty straightforward in responding to that, saying that she's not going to do anything that Congress deems improper. Where funds are appropriated for certain things, McMahon says, as secretary, if she's confirmed, she would make sure that they were to go to those programs, whether it's at the state level or from the federal level.
All right, Joe Khalil live for us there in Washington. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.